Hello and welcome to Astrology and Magic. My name is Valkyria Verdeur, it's Valkyrie of the Veil, and we are here today to talk about eclipse season because it's here. We made it. We made it. It kind of snuck up, to be honest. I feel like I just kind of looked up and suddenly now we're here in eclipse season. Wild. Especially because this eclipse season is such a big change. However, before we get into that, I do want to introduce my services and offerings at astrologyandmagic.com. It's magic with a CK at the end. I'm also running a special, super fun, through March 22nd. If you use code ECLIPSE in the booking process, that's all capital Eclipse, 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 you get 20% off of a 2-hour session with me. That could be an astrology birth chart reading or the spirit and magic work sessions. Either one of them, sometimes I do them combined for people, so if that's something you're interested in, there is the option to leave a message in the booking process as well. So that's what's happening with that. If you want to stay up to date on everything that's going on, there is a place on the website where you can enter your email and join the mailing list, or if you would like to join the blog, which is where that email, if you sign up on the website, will end up anyways. That is also linked at the top of the website. You do get email updates with when the newest episodes come out and any other things that are happening in the world of astrology and magic. And this podcast is supporter funded. So if you are wanting to be one of those supporters, thank you to the people who do support me, there is an option to do that on the blog as well. So that's the introduction. Now let's look at eclipse season because our lives are about to change for the better? Question mark? Hopefully. If you've been doing the work, then yes. If you have not been, then there will be lessons. But I mean, there's lessons when the good stuff too, so it is what it is. Going into eclipse season, the reason that I say we're already here, we don't have an eclipse until March 25th. It's March 8th. So you're probably like, how is this? What is going on? Even if you're not, well, we're here to learn. So we have our new moon in Pisces on March 10th. And this new moon in Pisces, it activates eclipse season, the new moon. So let's talk a little bit about moon magic. The way that I sit with the moon cycles, I sit with the new moon as the moon that rules over the entire moon cycle. The new moon, you sow the seeds in the darkness, you allow yourself to work through, reveal anything to yourself in the darkness. You're weaving things. It's very, very shadowed. Very, very, very shadowed. And there's a lot of really beautiful things that can happen in that shadow. It can be very protective and very secretive, but sometimes also there's some things that happen in the shadow that aren't very clear and might not make a lot of sense. So that's the new moon. Then we have the first quarter moon, and a first quarter moon, how I sit with that is that a first quarter moon, it's kind of this indication of the first direction of the cycle. Like you're weaving kind of intention seeds, sowing what you need to on the new moon. First quarter moon, you have your direction within the cycle is kind of set up. You've kind of figured out what direction you're going, what are you sowing, what's being grown, and then you have the full moon come through, and then there's clarity. Oh, this is the thing that's happening. Oh, this is the clarity. Okay, now I see. That's the full moon clarity. And a lot of the times too, with the moon, it is very heart-centered, and sometimes these things are a little bit more difficult to articulate. So if you are someone who is not super in tune with that, it is a practice. Emotional intelligence, speaking from the heart, it is something that does take practice, and the more that you practice it, the easier it gets. So just allow yourself to sit with yourself, feel through it, heal through it if you need to, reveal to yourself what you need to, and that's what it is. And then we have the third quarter moon. And this, the way that I say with the third quarter moon, is really the indication of direction of what needs to be let go of from your intentions. You kind of set the direction on the first quarter moon. There's revealings on the full moon. And then the third quarter moon is like, what do we need to get rid of? What needs to be done with? Is there anything that needs to be finalized? What are we doing? What are you doing in that cycle? For myself, what am I doing in that cycle to close out the cycle? And then the cycle closes, there's things that come to ground, and then we start a new cycle, and then there's the next new moon. So the fact that we have a new moon in Pisces, pre-eclipse season, granted, I am calling this eclipse season because we're here, and this is the start of that those eclipses. When this new moon comes through, we are officially in the weavings of what is to be for the eclipses. So when this new moon comes through, it being in Pisces, so let's talk about this for a moment. I have the charts pulled up for these moons. We are going to have the moon, the sun, Neptune, and Saturn in Pisces for the new moon on March 10th. We also, too, I want to point out as well that our full moon eclipse in Libra is it's going to be very Pisces influenced. This full moon in Libra, what we have going on in Pisces is that we have Mars, we have Saturn, we have Venus, and we have Neptune. The reason there is going to be such a influence with the Pisces energy for the Libra full moon lunar eclipse is because Libra is ruled by Venus. Surprise! And Venus is in Pisces. So there's another episode on Pisces season if you want to get the full breakdown and details of that. I am going to go over some of the things that are important for what we're working with for this eclipse season. If you have been doing the work, one of the things about Saturn being in Pisces while we are in Pisces season, Saturn's been in Pisces, and there's another episode on that too. So again, simple breakdowns here. You want the full breakdowns, there's other spaces for that. Saturn in Pisces is about order, structure, details in your spiritual practice. It is asking us to get so very specific, so very detailed, so very detail oriented, to sit in the awareness, to sit in the consistency. And for those of you who have spiritual practices, you know probably that sitting in consistency in your spiritual practice is not always that easy. Taking accountability in the spirit, doing the work you need to do in the spirit, it's not always easy. Making sure that you're making your offerings in the spirit, that's not always easy. It's not always easy. It is not. It's not always easy work. Spiritual work is work. So hold on. Actually, for a moment, if you do the work, good for you. Good for you. Because you know what? It is a collective effort on an individual level to be able to create change. So the fact that you are able to sit in your life and in your practice and do the work that you feel called to do, because we all have different callings and we all have different purposes. So you're sitting in your life and working how you need to, following your purpose and your calling in the spirit, sitting in accountability how you need to, feeding the spirits how you need to, sitting in your love how you need to, doing what you need to do. Listen, congratulations and thank you. I want to take a moment to thank you because it's not everybody in this world who does that. It's not everybody in this world who allows themselves to sit in the accountability and the work in the spirit. So if you are actually really doing that, thank you. Thank you. I send my love to you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So that's what's going on with Saturn in Pisces. It started in March of 2023. Almost forgot the year for a moment. But it is eclipse season. I could feel the energy open up the other day too. Like literally in the previous 24 hours, I've been feeling the energy of the season open up. I've been having lots of deja vu come through. There's a lot of different symbols and signs in my practice where I'm like, oh, here we go. It started. It has started. So Saturn in Pisces started in March of 2023. It's been around a year. It's been about a year. And some more breakdowns on Saturn in Pisces is that we're not only bringing details and order to our spiritual practice, it could also be about spiritual projects. So things that you're working on in the spirit, if there are projects you are working on or order that you have in your life that is spiritually influenced, it might not be specifically centered around spirituality, but if your spiritual practice is influencing that, then there will be structure and order brought through to it. So Saturn in Pisces is really asking us to be consistent, to do the work, to be persistent, not just consistent, to be persistent. Now, the difference between consistency is doing it over and over and over again. Persistency is doing it over and over and over and over again through a further length of time. Consistency is, in my opinion, a shorter length of time. Persistency would be a continuation of that cycle throughout longer periods of time. So both consistency and persistence with Saturn in Pisces in our spiritual practices. And if you do that, Saturn protects you, and Pisces is also about sacrifice. So there is not as much sacrifice happening if you are able to keep up that pattern of Saturn. Love you, Saturn. Thanks for your pattern. Love you, love you. So we do have Venus in Pisces with Saturn and with Mars and with Neptune on the full moon eclipse lunar eclipse in Libra, and there is going to be a lot of Pisces influence. So let's return to that for a moment. If you remember from the Pisces episode, the Pisces season episode, this season, Pisces season is really about our spiritual discipline, our spiritual practices, keeping order within our spiritual lives, and having illumination come through because we're doing that. Having illumination come through about what it is that we want to do. It's also a season of transition. This is the final season of our astrological year. With it being the final season of our astrological year, where are you going for the next year? This is a really big kind of like monumental moment where we are ending our astrological year. We're beginning eclipse season. We're also beginning a new cycle with the lunar nodes because Aries is the new moon solar eclipse on April 8th, and Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. We're also going into Aries season, which again is the beginning of the astrological new year. And on top of that, let's talk a moment for a moment about how these lunar nodes are shifting. This is such a, it's so wild. This is a really, 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 really intense change. How many times am I going to say it? It's really changing. We're really going through the change because our previous lunar nodes. So we need to talk about what's happening with the flip of Taurus and Scorpio into Aries and Libra. Taurus is Venus ruled. That was our previous north node. And for the previous 6 months, since the previous eclipses in October, we've had one foot in the new door because we had a new moon solar eclipse in Libra, and we've had one foot in the old door because our full moon eclipse back in October, the moon was in Taurus. So we've had all of this Venus energy going on, both within the north node influence and in the south node influence. There's been a lot of clearings that have been happening, removal of situations, people, places, things. In November, November of 2023 specifically, we have Venus finally moves into Libra after a Venus retrograde and after the eclipse season. So we do start to see the receivings of the new life. And at the same time, we're finalizing all of these old cycles of Taurus. And two, Taurus was in the north node. So it's new skills, purpose, callings, walking into new energy, creating new spaces for ourselves. And sometimes that can be a little uncomfortable. The north node is a little bit uncomfortable because it's about purpose and calling, and that is not always very easily articulated. When you follow your heart and you're following your purpose and you're following your calling, you don't always have the words for that. At least in my experience, I don't always have the words for those things. I don't always have the words for following a purpose and following. It's just like this feeling. You're like following a feeling and trusting that feeling. And if you follow that purpose and feeling and calling, usually things work out, but it does require that you gain new skills and that new things are brought through for you. And it feels a little different. So that's more about the north node. So we've had one foot in the old door of this old lunar node exchange with Taurus in the north node and Scorpio in the south node. And we've also had one foot in the new door with Libra being in the south node. It's been also very justice oriented, taking accountability, receiving justice from situations where we have been wronged. It's been a very big moment of Venus self-empowerment, understanding our worth, understanding what we are worth, allowing ourselves to receive what we are worth, and doing the work in ourselves and externally to set up a life where we can live easy, especially after the previous several years, because that Scorpio south node kicked our butts. It kicked our butts, especially if you are someone who has heavy Scorpio placements. If you have a chart where Scorpio is a ruler of any kind, or you have placements in Scorpio, more than likely the previous several years have been really intense, and that's an understatement. So that Scorpio south node, because Scorpio is about death, transformation, power, riches, and the south node is about the skills that we have and what we're really good at. So we had to lean into being really good at death, transformation, allowing ourselves to sit in our power. And one of the ways that Pluto likes to give us our power is to send people and opportunities and situations through to us to reflect to us how we maybe are not sitting in that power. And then you have to kind of face the truth of that. And that is not always super fun. So really the previous lunar nodes have been preparing us for what is to come, because that Scorpio, and let's talk about how there's been preparation. The Scorpio South Node is Mars ruled. Granted, there's Pluto in there too, but one of the things about Scorpio is Mars. Mars and Scorpio, it's very long-term oriented. Mars is about victory, it's about strategy. It's about battle. It's about how you remain in victory, not just obtain victory, but remain in victory. So Scorpio Mars victories are very long-term oriented. This is why some people say that Scorpios hold grudges. It's because of that Mars being very, very long-term. Scorpio is a very intense sign in the darkness, in the depth. And so Mars and Scorpio has the darkness and the depth. Mars and Scorpio also can sometimes get away with being a little bit more schemy about things because it is more shadowed. It's a little less direct, and you're playing the long game. This is something where you have to be really strong. Mars in Scorpio requires a lot of strength and endurance. Mars in Aries is a little different. It doesn't exactly require endurance. It just requires that you have strength, not necessarily length. And so Mars in Scorpio has been preparing us to understand with the South Node in Scorpio, understand our victory in the long term. What is it that we really want for our long term? How does that feel? How does it feel to understand our power in our strength and in our gravity and in our depth and in our length? What does it feel like to stand in that power and to have victory within that power? And how are we allowing ourselves to maybe give our power away to other people and have other people claim victories over us and our lives? And the Venus placements that have been happening with Taurus and Libra, now that we're in this transitional period for the previous 6 months, have been really allowing us to clear out anything that was not doing justice to us in our power, and how we have decided as individuals to stand in that power and wield it specifically. So we had Mars at Scorpio and Pluto too in the South Node. Now we have Mars in the North Node. So let's take a moment for this. This is the one time in our lunar node exchanges where our planets do a complete 180 flip. It's a complete change of grip. Mars in the South Node goes to Mars in the North Node, and Taurus, which it is Venus, Taurus being Venus, North Node, and now we have Libra in the South Node, and that's Venus. So we are doing a complete flippity dip, a change of grip. We're switching things up, and so Scorpio, that preparation was more long term, learning who we are in the darkness, learning who we are in our secrets, in our victories, and our secrets, and really getting into like the messy, dirty, grimy, kind of gross parts of what victory requires from us and of us. With Mars in the North Node now with Aries is very quick-fired, it's strong-headed, it's very much about what's happening right now. What are we doing right now that is allowing us to have victory? How can we have victory right now? Not a year from now, not 2 years from now. What does victory right now look like? And so also being in the North Node, it's going to be about new skills, obtaining new skills, having to grow ourselves, get out of our comfort zones. Aries also rules the head, and so we're thinking more logically. There's new maybe mindsets that are coming through, allowing yourself to be really, really disciplined within your mind, especially in the area where Aries is in your chart. That and the placements and the house that's ruled by Aries, that is in your chart specifically. That's going to be really important, having skills of the head. And if you are a spiritual practitioner, that could look in a lot of different things. There's a lot of different practices of mind. There's a lot of different practices of the head. You are going to know what is best for you. It could be literally as simple as new mindsets, new affirmations, new thought patterns, and allowing yourself to think new things and have victory in your mind before you have victory externally. That's also going to be very important for this North Node in Aries. So we've had this time with the Scorpio South Node in the previous several years to get really good at and lean into our skills of victory when it's not like victory where our power could be depleted, victory where our power could have been used against us, victory where our power could have been taken from us, victory where maybe we were giving our power away to other people. And now we've learned Scorpio is pretty dark. Scorpio is not always a super fun placement to work with, sign to work with. Yeah, Scorpio is very intense. It goes for the jugular when Scorpio's ruthless. And so we've had a lot of we've had a lot of energy where we've been going through these power exchanges and learning about these really like dirty, dark places in ourselves that are like that. Look, sometimes looking in the mirror is not super fun when you have Scorpio death transformation things going on. Aries in the North Node, it's finally time to see the sun. That Scorpio South Node taught us to trust ourselves. Trust ourselves in the darkness. Clear out these shadows. Trust ourselves where no one else can see us. Trust ourselves where we don't have a crutch to lean on anymore. Trust ourselves where we are sure, where we're sure of ourselves as individuals, where we're sure of ourselves. We don't need other people's opinions. We don't need other people's influence. We're standing in our power as individuals. And now with the North Node in Aries, we're going to be able to apply that in a swift, fast moving forward motion. Of course, rest when you need to. This is a change in energy because Scorpio with the depth and the gravity and the length of things, that's a little bit slower moving. It's very articulated, yes, and also it's very slow. Taurus in the North Node, that's earth energy. That's also slower moving. Taurus Venus is earth energy. That's like how the plants grow. How are you allowing there to be nurture that comes through that allows you to grow and to blossom and to take your time and to, if you ever hugged a tree, you got to slow down. You have to slow down and you have to really be present. And so there's a lot of new skills in those areas that were coming through with that Taurus North Node. Also to note, before I move further into what this lunar node exchange is doing, Taurus right now, because we are still in that transitional period, we have yet to go through both of these next upcoming eclipses. Taurus skills and stories are still being finalized. So where Taurus is for you in your chart, mine's in my 12th house. I'm super excited for this to move out of my 12th house. I'm super, super excited for this to move out of my 12th house. So if you are experiencing finalizations of Taurus lessons, Taurus skills, Taurus abilities, anything that has to do with Taurus in your chart, the area of life and the placements, if things are being finalized right now, definitely then you're on track for what is happening in our planetary placements. Taurus, Venus is going now. So that's the Venus of like slower moving energy. It's the Venus where we slow down and we really allow ourselves to slowly receive. It's a lot of slow breathing, luxury, rest energy. Granted, it was in the North Node, so we are learning new skills about this, learning that maybe we're worthy of that rest, maybe we're worthy of allowing ourselves the time to do what we need to do and to grow. And so that also is asking us to slow down. And now Venus is in Libra, which is an air sign, and think about how much more swiftly air moves than the Earth. Yeah. So Libra in the South Node is really bringing through, and the South Node is about, again, what are you good at with this? What are you already good at? And leaning into that, leaning into the skills that you're already really good at. And so as you're working with this Libra South Node, it is a lot about balance in air energy, balancing the scales, and bringing through balance. Taurus and Scorpio, I feel like there was maybe some unbalanced, I know for me at least, there was some unbalanced things that were happening and going on. And so now we're focusing on having a more of a balanced time, allowing ourselves rest and time to work, allowing ourselves rest internally and time for people, allowing like balance in the areas where Libra is in your chart. That's what's happening, and we're going to be able to move more swiftly in it. So the previous 6 months, while we've had Taurus still influencing our North Node eclipse and also Libra in the South Node, we've been moving back and forth between this really grounded Venus energy and having new skills there, and this more swift moving Venus energy, more informational Venus energy also. Libra is information sharing. It's also about like aesthetics. It's about the way that we look and the way that we are giving off image, and that is something that can move fairly swiftly, especially if you consider how quickly facial movements can happen. That's one of the ways that Libra placements can be communicated, as well as through dress, through like your robe, and then too through like your image, generally speaking. It's very much about like aesthetics. So we're leaning into that with the South Node, and also it is swifter moving. Then we have this Aries North Node too that we're moving into, and that again is going to be it's more Spitfire, surefire, headstrong. Both Libra and Aries are far swifter, faster moving than the Taurus and the Scorpio energy. Also, too, if you have been feeling like there have been energies where you have been kind of stuck, or it's been taking you a while to learn the lessons over the previous several years, that's more than likely because this Taurus, Scorpio, North and South node has been influencing you to slow down and really think about things and get to the depth of it and get to the length of it and get to the strength of it and understand it on a far deeper level. And now we've gone through, it's basically like the previous couple of years have been asking us to really like sit, quit, and figure some things out. Figure some things out, slow down, allow ourselves to like, it was a period of removal, a period of gravitational force change. There's a lot of like, it's a very dark period, a very dark time where we were asked to really get our rest in, and not just our rest, but allowing ourselves to sit and digest, allowing ourselves to really understand, think things through, and gain the skills of, again, trusting yourself, trusting in your abilities, trusting in where you are victorious and how that power comes through you. And now that we have been grounded in that, because with slower energy, there is more grounding usually. So with that Taurus and Scorpio node, the North and the South node, we are more grounded in those energies. They were not super fun for a lot of people. And also there was more grounded lessons, more grounded abilities, more grounded skills. And now that we're going into the Aries and Libra, we have fire and air, and that is gonna be wild. It's going to be very swift. There's going to be a lot. This is a time to use your gift. Thank you, Spirit. This is a time to use your gift. When you are in these Aries and Libra eclipses, this is a time to use your gift. We've already worked through why we don't really feel like we're worthy of the gift, why we don't really feel like we're worthy of the opportunities, why we don't really feel like we're victorious, why we don't stand in our power. We've worked through it. We've had a couple years to work through it, actually. And so if you've actually done the work and sat with yourself and really understood these deeper, darker parts of you and obtained the skills that you've needed to, now is a time where kind of like things are a little bit more limitless. They're a little bit more boundless. You're going to be able to move a lot swifter. This is actually, that's kind of a great example. If you have ever played chess, or seeing people play chess, there's a difference between sitting and having a very long thought out game and people who play speed chess. Speed chess is wild. If you've ever seen somebody play speed chess where they have just the pieces and it goes, you have to be so good at understanding the game of chess before you're able to go in and play speed chess and actually have victory there. So we have been honing and refining our skills over the previous several years with our Venus receiving energy, our receiving magic, allowing ourselves to sit in receiving, and with our victories. Now we are allowing ourselves the space and the room and the time to go through and move things how we need to. This is a time where we are probably, hopefully, more excited about life again. There may be some things we're still healing from the previous several years, especially if you do have heavy Scorpio and Taurus placements. There could have been things that were happening in your life that maybe were not super fun. But again, now it's time to see the sun, Aries and Libra. This is a time to have fun. We're walking into a completely new chapter. If the previous several years for you were absolute garbage, then the next couple of years for you are probably going to be pretty great. They're probably going to be pretty great because we are doing a complete 180 flip again. So a change of grip. It's a change of grip where if you've been holding on to the old life, get ready to let go of it and focus on receiving what is very new for you and very true for you for where you are now. So with the new moon in Pisces, let's return to that for a moment before we move on. With the new moon in Pisces, with everything that was just spoken kind of in mind, the new moon in Pisces is going to be a little bit more blind honestly. There's going to be a little bit more blindness on the new moon in Pisces. So allow yourself to really just sit with your feeling. Trust in yourself. Trust in the way that you feel. Trust in your decisions. Trust in your weavings. And two, if you feel like you need to write down anything that you are weaving, working with your intentions, also anything that you're leaving, because Pisces is also about transition. So if there's anything that you're leaving behind, transition means there's something new coming through. So if you notice yourself leaving anything behind, what are you receiving because of that? And if that's not clear yet, more than likely it will be made clear within the year. It could be a bigger long-term receiving. It could be a short-term receiving, however it is that you are working in that for yourself. So that's a little bit more about the new moon in Pisces. One of the things that I do recommend also is that if you are someone who writes things down for the moon cycles, I do that for myself. If that is something that you do, I would recommend going and returning to the previous eclipse season sometime in the near future when you feel called to, if you feel called to do that, to allow yourself to receive kind of where you were at, because that new moon Libra eclipse on October 14th of 2023, it opened the door to a new Libra story, but again, the new moons are more hidden, they're more shadowed, and there's sometimes a lot of things that don't really make sense on the new moons that when the full moon comes around, and we're about to have that full moon eclipse in Libra, when the full moon comes around, then there are things that come to ground. Yes, thank you, Spirit. There are things that come to ground when the full moon comes around. There's understandings that we have. There's things that we're able to receive. Sometimes there's things that leave. That's true. It really depends on what it is you're needing to receive. And sometimes we need to receive things that leave. That's just what it is. So allowing yourself to go back and return to those reflections and understand where you were within yourself, that could also be a helpful practice as this new moon in Pisces is moving through. The other thing about new moon in Pisces, I think I already said this, but I'm going to say it again, don't skimp on your practices. If you're someone who keeps rituals every single moon cycle, if you have things that you do every single moon cycle, because Saturn is in Pisces right now, keep up the pattern. Keep up the pattern and you will be protected. We love it. I love it. I won't speak for you. I love it. I love Saturn. I love the protection. I'm grateful for that protection direction. So that is a little bit more about the new moon in Pisces. Is there anything else about the new moon in Pisces before I move into further work on that? I also have a cat on my lap, so thank you for your patience in my transition. Look at that transition, you know. He says hello, the cat. Yes, he says hello. He has come over to check it out and say hi. So I think that's it for the new moon in Pisces. Also, too, that's true. If you're looking at the new moon Libra eclipse and the new moon in Pisces, if you're noticing, because again, Saturn is in Pisces, if you're noticing any pattern between what was happening for you on the new moon lunar eclipse, or the new moon solar eclipse, new moon solar eclipse, October 14th in Libra, and any pattern symbolically, metaphorically, or literally, it really depends on where your gifts are in your life and in your chart. If you are looking at those reflections and you're noticing things that actually are reflected, that is a green flag. Pay attention. Pay attention and have retention. If you are looking at the things from the new moon solar eclipse in Libra from October that are reflected through this new moon in Pisces, March 10th, that are either literally, symbolically, or both, how they are connected, that is something that is redirected. You redirected, further inspect it if you need to. What do I mean by redirected? It is something that is here for a reason. And so if you are able to identify why you were working with that on the new moon solar eclipse, that's the one, in October in Libra, if you're able to identify why it was around you, what were you noticing about that energy, about that work, and then how it's being reflected now, that's the redirection. Sometimes it requires a little bit further inspection. So if you're looking at maybe there was a situation, a circumstance, maybe there was something very intentional that you were working or unintentional that you were working on that new moon solar eclipse in Libra in October, if you are looking at that and there are things where you're you're like, actually, it looks different now. It looks different, but it looks similar. It looks different, but because again, Pisces is transition. So allowing yourself to have those transitions through this new moon in Pisces. We also have there's like these previous couple of weeks, days have been really preparatory of this upcoming eclipse season. We did have our full moon in Virgo, which actually was a little bit more shadow work oriented, and we're also still in this North Node Chiron conjunction in Aries. That, I don't know about you, that conjunction has been kicking my behind. It has been kicking my butt. It has been really intense because Chiron asks that you sit with those wounds and allow yourself to really and not just the wounds, but the empowerment and the skills that you are able to receive because you have sacrificed innocence. And it's conjunct with the North Node. So we're learning new skills of doing that, new skills of healing, new skills of empowerment, new skills of receiving and retaining what we are able to from innocence that has been sacrificed from us, whether another person forced our hand to sacrifice that innocence or we gave it up willingly. It really depends on the situation, circumstance, and your life story. So there's that. But we are still in that conjunction. And that conjunction is really helping to clear out any of old webs, or not just old webs, like anything that we are unable to see clearly about our wounds that could interrupt our future cycle of our eclipses. We are now clearing that out so that we are able to move through the next eclipse season more uninterrupted, so that there are not as many interruptions. Because when you actually sit with Chiron and you allow that to empower you and bring through the new skills, then there are actually, and thank you, Spirit, there are actually empowerment, there's skills, there's tools that you learn from that are useful in so many other situations. So again, Aries is the head. It could be mindsets that you are learning about. Maybe other people's minds have wounded you. Maybe there's mindsets that you're still keeping that are wounding you still, or have come from a wounded place, and are there's the pattern of that is still continuing. So we have this conjunction with that North Node Aries and thank you, Spirit. Yes, the North Node Aries and the Chiron conjunction. And that really is preparation for what's coming up with the eclipses, that new moon solar eclipse in Aries. When you're looking at your chart, the area that Aries rules, the house that it rules, and any placements, that is going to be new skills, new purpose. So actually, let's talk about that for a moment, because not only do we have, this is when I say new, I mean very new. This is going to be very, very new, a very, 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 very new story. Aries is the first, I think I already said this at the beginning, I'm going to say it again. Aries is the first of the zodiac, so that's one of the new things. This is also Aries being the first. This starts off a new cycle for our North nodes, because we are having our first eclipse in Aries with the North Node. So we're starting a new cycle there. We're also going to be in Aries season, which is a new astrological year. We're also going to be able to receive that in the North Node, which is new skills. So that's 4 different layers. Four different layers of new cycles. 4 different layers of new skills and wills and thrills and chills. This is going to be a very, very, very new energy for everyone. It's going to be very different. So expect the unexpected and allow yourself to receive what you need to. That is true. That is true. So where do we want to go now with this? Let me look at my notes for a moment. Let's talk about the actual eclipses now. So we've had kind of the preparation information. Let's talk about the actual eclipses now. So the Libra full moon lunar eclipse, this happens March 25th. Now, let me pull up this chart. Like I said earlier, it is going to be very Piscean influenced. There is going to be the opportunity within those Pisces influences to have victory, to claim victory, because Mars is going to be in Pisces, which means that we're also going to have the Pisces influence in our Aries eclipse as well. So allowing yourself to claim victories through transition. This is also going to have the undercurrent weavings for the next 6 months of our lives being in transition, and the victories and the receivings that we are able to sit in being, again, more in transition. It's going to be very spiritually inclined. So if you are someone who has been setting your life up in this Pisces season to work the way that you need it to and being consistent with your work, as I stated earlier, being consistent with that, then there's some really great things that can happen, honestly. This, again, Saturn being with pattern, and you do the work, there are rewards that come through. Plus you have Mars in Pisces, plus you have Venus in Pisces, plus Neptune is in Pisces, and Neptune is the ruler of Pisces. So we have a lot of this Pisces energy going on. The other thing about Pisces, and I mentioned this in the Pisces episode, I'm gonna mention it here again, Pisces are tricksters. So if you are, it's not the whole entire energy of Pisces, but there is a side to Pisces that is trickster oriented. So because what other type of spirit knows how to get you to sacrifice things that maybe you would not have sacrificed otherwise than a trickster? Pisces it's got a little trickster edge to it. It's got a little trickster ledge to it. Okay, trickster energy is present with Pisces. Love Pisces, love the tricksters. Also, be warned, if you are unfamiliar with trickster energy, now is a time to start to study it if you feel like you need to, because trickster energy is one of the things I've been saying recently, and my Aries is my 11th house, so that's my social circles. One of the things I've been saying recently is that it's pretty good to have people around you who are tricksters. It's pretty good, because a lot of the times, when you're looking at spiritual structures within like the actual spirit practices and spirit realms, one of the things that I've noticed is that tricksters are usually the protectors of allowing the offerings to go through or allowing people to go through. Like, tricksters kind of hold the line with things. What do I mean by hold the line? They make sure that if you're not supposed to be there, you stay out. And so befriending trickster energy, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Tricksters do have pretty harsh lessons if you are messing around at things you shouldn't be. So there's that. But also in that, there are a lot of really valuable lessons that can come out of those experiences. So if there are different trickster things around you, or you yourself are being a little bit more trickster-y, then there's also that. And two, don't let yourself get tricked out of what it is that you want to do, because it's not just you under the Pisces trickster influence, it is everyone. We're all under this influence, which means that everyone is going to be able to sit in that Pisces trickster sacrificial type of energy. So if you are true to yourself and you are sure about things and you're walking through what you need to, how you need to, trust in that. We've been through the previous several years of trusting in ourselves, learning what our power feels like. Remember those lessons from that darkness and from those depths, so that there are no opportunities for people to trick you out of your power. And also don't cower, because sometimes that tricksters can use that against you too. So don't cower, really, really stand in your power. Trust in yourself, trust in the work that you do, and trust in you. Who better for your purpose than you? Be a go-getter, you got it. So the Libra, returning to the eclipse, the actual eclipse, there is going to be, it's a full moon. We have a lot of clarity coming through with this one. Like I said earlier, to return to that new moon solar eclipse in Libra, October 14th, revisit what you were doing. If you remember the day, if you remember how you're feeling, if you have things written down, go back and remember, and allow yourself to really sit and reflect on those things. And then this full moon, I just have a feeling there's going to be redirection, especially because of all this Pisces influence. And two, we're finally not 1 foot in the door, 1 foot out the door. We're finally just in the door. We're walking forward. And so I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of transition, transitional information that comes through, emotional information that asks us to transition, intellectual information that asks us to transition. There's going to be a big focus on transition, not just during these eclipses, but throughout the next 6 months. Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of transitions. So heads up on that. allow there to continue to be more information that comes through about transition. Because the thing about the eclipses is like they're happening on this day. Thank you, Spirit. That's true. They're happening on this day. And there is that because there's these other placements. So we have Mars, Saturn, Venus, Neptune in Pisces, while we have this eclipse going on in Libra. That's it's like an imprint. It's like a stamp. It says this energy will remain influencing us for the next 6 months. So this, we're stamping this here, stamp, and then it will remain influencing us until we go through our next eclipses. So if you are looking to make really big transitions in your life, now's the time. And I just had deja vu saying that. So now's the time. Go do it for you. You got it. Go through. You could do it. You could do it. You could do it. I'll be your cheerleader over here. Come back and listen whenever you need to. You got it. You could do it. You could do it. You could do it. So that's the full moon. Allow there to be that big information that comes through. The full moon, again, full moon is a lot about clarity. Let there be clarity. Clarity needs you just like you need clarity. It's true. So allow the clarity to come through. And thank you, clarity. I love you. Allow clarity to come through. Allow yourself to make the transitions that you need to. Transitions can be a little scary, okay? Because you're leaving something behind. You're leaving something behind that maybe worked for you, honestly. It could be something that worked for you. It could be something maybe it didn't work for you and like good riddance then. Goodbye. See you never. See you not ever. Never is a clever word. So we'll see you not ever and going into the future. So allow yourself to make the transitions and really, really allow yourself to make the transitions. Because if you don't allow yourself to make the transitions, then you're going to be in the same cycle again or a similar cycle. And then you're just going to be learning the lessons of that. So do it. Do it for yourself. You deserve it. You deserve it. And the thing about Saturn, so we talked about Venus earlier on like the worth and the self-worth. The thing about Saturn and Saturn being in Pisces and also having kind of like an undercurrent influence to what's going on right now and having it be in this stamp, this imprint moving forward, Saturn doesn't care if you feel worth it. It doesn't. Saturn does not care. Saturn is about pattern. And so Saturn looks at you and your work and what you're doing and looks at if you've earned it. Venus is about worth, self-worth, receiving from that worth. What are things worth? It's the value and the worth. Saturn doesn't care about the worth. It cares about if you've earned it. Have you put the work in? Have you done what you've needed to do? And so that is also something that's going to be asked of you through this is like, you don't just, it's like a double whammy, keep you extra protected. If you're feeling like you're worth it, and you're doing the work to earn it, well, congratulations. There's probably some really big things, great, grand, big things that are coming through for you to receive, because that is, especially if you've been doing the work to have things leave over the previous 6 months and probably kind of before that too. Get it out, get it gone. We've had time for that to be done. Now is the time to earn it. Now is the time to earn it. To turn it, to take a turn, to have things turn for us. It's so exciting. I'm really, really excited. Okay, so that's the full moon. Allow there to be the space that you need on that day. Now, the new moon is going to be a little bit different. So the new moon is, it's going to be interesting. We're going to be under a Mercury retrograde. I am going to do another episode on the Mercury retrograde itself because it's a Mercury retrograde and it's eclipse season and that's pretty intense and there's more information. So I am going to do one about that further on and later on. Just for now, write down things, write them down, get them out of your crown, ground them, write them down. If you are having ideas come through about your Aries placements and the area of your chart that Aries rules, write it down. Don't be a fool, write it down. And then when the new moon, solar eclipse in Aries comes through, you can go to school. Return to those writings, go to learn. What have you written about? How are you feeling? What were you trying to figure out? Allow yourself to return because everything else is moving forward. Everything else says we're going in the direction of forward. And Mercury says, hold on. We need to return to our previous communications. And so if you are allowing yourself to really integrate now your communications about your Aries placements, what are you thinking about with your Aries placements? What are you talking about? How are you feeling? What is it that you're thinking about doing with this next chapter and era For some of us, it is an new era, not just a new chapter of our lives. What is it that you're really working with? And what are you thinking about? And what are you trying to figure out? And what is it that you're really sitting in? What are you sitting in with the Aries energy? What is it that you're asking yourself in the Aries energy? And writing it down, you're going to allow yourself to really return to what is good for you. So write it down, write it down, write it down, write it down. I'm being so serious. Write it down or make a voice note for yourself. However you need to record it, write it down. Write it down. Also, returning. I know I've talked about Saturn a couple times already, but we're going to talk about Saturn again because Mars and Saturn are pretty much basically conjunct for the eclipse. So there's haha. I feel like this whole season of Aries is just kind of like, it's like this haha funny joke that's not really funny, but like you can find humor in it if you really wanted to, because the Mercury retrograde starts April 1st. Happy Fool's Day. Haha. So funny. And then I did roll my eyes. You cannot see it, but I did. Haha. We have Mars and Saturn. Mars is going to be 12 degrees in Pisces. Saturn is at 14 degrees in Pisces. Technically, that's a 2-degree orb conjunction. It's technically could be called a conjunction. I'm going to call it conjunction enough. Okay, they're close enough for that to be a really big influence, especially because Mars is the ruler of Aries. We also have a lot of placements in Aries. So let's go over this. We have Venus in Aries. The moon will be in Aries, our north node. The sun in Aries. We're still going to have Chiron in Aries. And Chiron and the sun are also going to be conjunct on this new moon solar eclipse. So expect there to be, that's part of the reason that this north node Chiron in Aries conjunction right now is so important to kind of pay attention to, like the new skills of healing and the new skills of revealing and healing and the empowerment thereof and the tools that you're receiving from the innocence that has been sacrificed. Allowing yourself to receive those things right now. That's why that's so important, because having this come through, the eclipses are the sun and the moon. So when we do have this eclipse that happens and we have the sun with Chiron and the moon, hello, that conjunction is going to, that's not just a conjunction, that's a Kazemi. That's at the heart of the sun. That's Kazemi. So Chiron in this is like, Chiron like kind of snuck in. Chiron kind of was like, can we just get, it's like the tag along that maybe nobody really wanted to come, but we love you, Chiron. I love you, Chiron. Thanks for being here. So and that's going to be with the North Node too. So like, oh my goodness, this is going to be so intense. I didn't even realize until before I started talking about this that Chiron was going to be conjunct with the sun. So that, my mind is kind of blown right now. I'm not going to lie to you. That's pretty intense. Well, I hope that you have been sitting in your healings how you need to, because if you have not been, then that might be another thing that is a little like kick in the behind. But you know what? Be kind to yourself. That's part of healing. Let me remind myself to be kind to myself too. That's true. So yeah, that Chiron and Sun conjunction, there's probably going to be too, like a lot of illumination about the work that you have been doing. Okay. Shout out to the work you have been doing, because the work is work. Spiritual work is work. Healing work, so much work. It's so much work. So allowing yourself to sit and like understand that and receive that. There's going to be a lot of illumination that comes through on that eclipse day of like, how are you actually healed? This day is going to be, it's going to let you know how prepared you actually are for your new life. How actually prepared are you? Have you been scared about the change? Maybe a little bit. This day is going to let you know that you don't need to be. Or if you are still afraid, why are you still afraid? This day, there's going to be a lot of clarity and illumination. And even though it's a new moon, and again, that's a little bit darker, that's a little bit more in the shadows, things may not be so clear emotionally. However, we are going to have illumination for this Chiron placement. So we have maybe like emotions, and Aries rules the head too. So that's true actually. If there are things within your emotions that are not making sense, look to your logic. Valid. If there are things in your emotions that are not making sense, you're unable to articulate things, look to your logic. What is your mind saying? What are you able to like peek through in the window of your mind? How are you able to sit with your mind and be kind to your mind? What is it that's coming through mentally for you, especially around healing and these healing of the wounds and the tools thereof? That is going to be really, really important. Let's talk a little bit more about this undercurrent of Mars and Saturn being conjunct. That's really wild. This new moon solar eclipse in Aries is gonna be it's gonna be is what it is. So Mars and Pisces. Mars again is about victory. So Mars and Pisces has victory through sacrifice and through sight. Gorgeous. If you are someone who sits in your sight and you know how to you've learned how to fight in your sight. Okay, be a little cryptic there, a little non-descriptive, but if you've learned to fight in your sight, in your practice, and you know how you do that in your right, you got it, then this is probably going to be pretty easy for you. Not going to lie, because Mars in Pisces asks us to have victory in the spirit, which means you also need to understand how to fight in the spirit. It doesn't necessarily mean that you will have to fight. That's not necessarily the undercurrent of it, but it does require that you allow yourself to understand from your learnings of victory. And thank you, Spirit, for preparing me. I love you. So in your victories within your practice, in maybe circumstances, situations where you have had to fight. And if you are someone who is newer to a practice, let's talk about that for a moment. If you're newer to a practice, you're newer to spiritual learnings, you're newer to spiritual understandings, remember that your human life is one of the greatest teachers for being in the spirit. If it is unable to be grounded in your human life, sometimes that information can be a little dangerous. So if you are working in the spirit, be sure that you're grounding it in your human life. And if you're new to a practice, look at your human life. How have you been able to have victories in your life through using your talents, your gifts, and your skills? And how does that apply to your spiritual practice? So that could be kind of like a more simple version of that question for more advanced practitioners who are in the area of their life and have the experience of fighting in the spirit and having victory in the spirit thereof because of that. Then this is going to probably be a breeze with ease. This is going to be breezy, easy, lemon squeezy. Maybe a little cheesy, like that line. All right, so then we have Saturn. Moving on. Then we have Saturn with this Mars placement. So the victories that you are able to set yourself up with, there's so much order coming through from Pisces season to this new moon solar eclipse in Aries. And what do I mean by order? Prophecy. What do I mean by order? Divination. What do I mean by order? Not just divination, weavings, long-term weavings. One of the things that happens for me in my practice is that things will go A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And it might happen symbolically. It might be symbols, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. But I know that things, when there's order with a capital O, when there's order that comes through A, B, C, D, E, F, G, more than likely that's going to happen again, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then it's probably going to happen again, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, even again, if it's symbolically. So the symbols might look a little different depending on the situation you're in, but A, B, C, D, E, F, G, that's an order true. So there's going to be victory and order. So again, having discernment and discipline in your practice, so super important for this upcoming eclipse. And if you are someone who is learning about that, look at it as a learning opportunity to learn and refine those skills. Because again, North Node, new cycles, new skills, Aries, new cycle. With that, there are a lot of new things happening, a lot of new things going on. So if you're someone who is new to victory in the spirit, battle in the spirit, order in the spirit, if you're new to discernment, if you're new to discipline within your practice, allow this season, this cycle, for you to bring through very determined purpose for yourself, determined. One of the things in the Pisces season episode that I did that spirit came through was that give yourself a reason this Pisces season. And thank you, Spirit. I love you. Give yourself a reason this Pisces season. If you have been sitting with your reason, your purpose, your why, your reason, and you have also been allowing yourself to cry. Sometimes in Pisces season, we got to cry it out. That's just what it is. If you have been allowing yourself to go through what you need to with your reason, you've been sitting with your reason, understanding your reason, doing the work that you need to do for your reason, it is going to be a change of season. There is some very, very, very serious, like if you really, and this is for my practitioners who know themselves, they know what's up. I'm going to go back to more beginners in a moment, but for the practitioners who really know, you really know what you're doing. You're confident in yourself. You know how to keep yourself in a space of learning so that you don't get tricked, you don't get tripped up. You know how to keep your discernment. You know how to keep your discipline. You know what your order in your practice is. You know how to protect yourself in the spirit. This new moon solar eclipse in Aries for you is going to be so supercharged. Congratulations. If you're really someone, I might cry. If you're really someone who has done the work to get through that South Node in Scorpio, you claimed your victories in those dark moments. You claimed your victories with your power when there were people who were around you, circumstances, situations that were around you that were really hurting you, causing pain, strain, that were making you complain. Now you have allowed yourself to do the work and you have learned how to fight in the spirit. You have learned how to discern. You have learned how to keep yourself grounded and to humble yourself and to correct yourself and to keep yourself accountable, because part of that South Node with Libra is justice, and that also requires accountability. If you are someone who has been doing the work, congratulations. You made it through and your victories are about to come true. Your victories are about to come true for you. This new moon solar eclipse in Aries, it ushers in an entire new 18 and a half year cycle for the North nodes, for the North nodes. So we were at the end. Here we are. You made it. And you didn't have to grade yourself. Congratulations. You didn't have to play yourself. Congratulations. You made it through. Congratulations are due for you. And I really, really hope, I'm not you, so you do what you need to do. And you know what? Hope is a trope. But also, I really hope that you allow yourself to sit in this, revel in it, really feel through it, really allow yourself to feel how victorious you have become. Congratulations. Because you know what? Having victory like that in the spirit, having victory where you are allowing yourself to really get into the grimy, dirty work, to sit in the accountability, to do the work. The work is work. The work is hard sometimes. So if you are really doing that, then you do deserve it. You've earned it. That's part of Saturn, to earn things. You have earned a congratulations. You have earned an easy season. So keep giving yourself a reason in this easy season. Give yourself a reason. Keep growing what you need to. And I love you. And congratulations on making it through, because you know what? I'm right there with you. So congratulations are due. Congratulations to you. And I love you. That's so beautiful. Wow. So for people who are maybe a little less, no stress about it. But if you're a little less experienced, because I do have some younger listeners, granted, I'm pretty young myself too. So, age is just a number, is a cliche, or like that's a thing for a reason. And also, there are people who are a little bit more inexperienced in the spirit, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. So if you are someone who feels like maybe you are in that category of being a little less experienced, or you're newer in your journey in spirit, then this is definitely going to be, still give yourself a reason, and still give yourself credit for all of the work that you've been doing, if you've been doing the work. Okay, so there's that. If you're someone who is newer to a practice, newer to the spirit, newer to spirituality, if you're sitting more in the newness of this, or you feel like maybe you're a little bit more on a surface level, there isn't quite the depth, there isn't quite the understanding yet. There isn't quite the understanding yet, and that's valid. We all are in different positions and different placements in our lives and our practices, because that's what it needs to be. We are individuals for a reason, and that's just what it needs to be. So if you are there, allow this to be a change of season. If you, because these Pisces influences are happening, allow there to be transition for you. Again, Pisces is about transition. So this is really going to ask if you are if you are someone who is newer and you have yet to create order within your practice and that reflects into your life, if you have not yet done that, my words, let me keep them so specific and so direct, in love, truth, elevation, in the order of love, truth, and elevation. And thank you, Spirit, for keeping my words in that order. If you are someone who is newer and you have not yet been able to set up your practice spiritually in an order that is of victory, that is protective, allow this new moon in Aries solar eclipse to be very directive. Direction. Allow yourself to have direction. If you need further inspection, have further inspection, because one of the things about Aries is that it is so, again, swift, it's headstrong, and usually Aries is the first idea is the only idea. that is one of the things about Aries. The first idea is the only idea. However, if you, because of this undercurrent of Saturn influence, if you have yet to set up an order for yourself where there is great trust in that order, then if the first idea is the only idea, sometimes that first idea being the only idea could get you into a situation where then you need to heal or reveal some things to yourself. So if you need to, this is not a note of don't trust yourself, because if you trust yourself, trust in yourself, trust it, if you really feel headstrong about something, and we are in an Aries energy, so that's probably naturally going to be a thing. So if you feel headstrong about something, you feel like you are not going to be wrong about it, then go and do it. And also at the same time, if there is hesitation within you and there needs to be further inspection upon your direction of victory, allow yourself to sit and learn so that you do not burn. Because Saturn asks that you learn. It asks that you always learn. And if you are not in the learning, there could be a burning. Saturn, that is why some people do not like Saturn, is because it is a harsher placement in its lessons. So if you are allowing and listen, I have a Saturn in Aries, so I understand that sometimes going in headstrong, head first, how do I say this? It has, on a personal level, because I'm not going to speak anything over you. On a personal level, it has gotten me into some sticky situations. And also at the same time, that headstrong ability is what has allowed me to get out of those sticky situations and be headstrong. Being headstrong has taught me how to not be wrong because I've been wrong on many occasions. And so that actually is going to be an under influence of this new moon solar eclipse in Aries. If you are someone who has yet to really set up their practice and have order and structure within that. So that's what I have for you. That's pretty good, to be honest. Is there anything else that we need to pay attention to? Returning, before I do close this out, returning to that Mercury retrograde, like I said, I am going to do another episode. This is already an hour, a little over an hour long. And plus, there's a lot of information here. It's pretty strong. I don't want to just dump a whole bunch of stuff on y'all at the same time. So, but I do want to return to that for a moment, just because I feel like it's important to talk about kind of the undercurrents of that, or how it's going to be affecting us. So we do have Mercury shadow period. The pre-shadow period is from March 18th until April 1st. So notice any patterns within your communication styles or systems that are not working for you, because then April 1st, when it goes retrograde through April 25th, that is when that retrograde then goes direct. So April 1st to April 25th, we have Mercury in retrograde. Then is when we're able to see the patterns that you saw in the pre-shadow period of the retrograde itself. Mercury being in retrograde will allow you to see the impact of and what do I mean by impact? Not just the intent and not just the could be possibly, how is it actually affecting you? The systems of communication, the areas of communication when it comes to Aries, because Mercury is retrograding in Aries. So it could be communications of the mind as well, and how that relates to that area of your chart. So then we go through that retrograde period, and we're really allowing ourselves to see the impact of those communications, things that are not working for us. If you're allowing yourself to weave into the new moon solar eclipse an order of correction, so correcting those systems that may not be beneficial to you, correcting those styles of communication, mentalities, thought patterns, and communications internally and externally that may not be beneficial for you, you are then weaving in the leaving behind of the things that are not beneficial to you, which means that you are then weaving in, leaving behind those mentalities and communications that are not beneficial for you and to you for the next 6 months. If you are deciding to not really do anything about it, then there is an order, because Saturn with order is a big influence undercurrents of these eclipses. So if you are keeping up the order of being just like complacent or not really doing much about it, then that also is what will be woven into the next 6 months coming through. So it's really up to you. However you feel like you need to weave those things for yourself. If you feel like it's not necessary to do the work, then don't sit in it. If you feel like you really need to, then go ahead and do it. It's up to you. Discernment. And again, with the Pisces influences, there is a lot about discernment. So I did want to bring that up just to kind of like note before we close out today's episode. Oh, it's Pisces season and it's eclipse season and we're here. We made it, you guys. We made it. I'm so grateful to be here. I'm so grateful to be on the other side of that Scorpio South node. I'm so grateful to be on the other side of all the things that were so very sucky, that it's just not good. Like it was a really rough couple of years for me on a personal level. And I know for so many other people too, that it has just been so transformative, and also that process is so sometimes, so I'm so grateful to be here on the other side. I'm grateful to be here with you. I'm grateful for your support. I'm grateful for your time and your energy. Like that is something where there's been a lot of changes in my life recently, and that's something that I have been continuing to sit in. So thank you again. I give my gratitude, my love, and my reverence to you. Thank you for being here. And I give my gratitude, my reverence, and my love to the highest spirit, to the great mother spirit, to the great father spirit, to the spirits of love, truth, elevation, and the order of love, truth, and elevation, to the mothers of love, truth, elevation, and the order of love, truth, and elevation, to the fathers of love, truth, and elevation, and the order of love, truth, and elevation, to the ancestral spirits of love, truth, elevation, and the order of love, truth, and elevation, to the indigenous spirits of the land where I sit, talk, walk, and stand, and to the indigenous spirits of the land where you sit, talk, walk, and stand. I give my hand to the land. I give my gratitude, love, and reverence to those spirits. True, thank you for being here. Thank you for hearing me. Thank you for your support. And I give my love, gratitude, and reverence to you again in return. May your eclipse season be one of learn and not burn. May your eclipse season be the season of reason for you that you need, and may you receive what you need in love, truth, elevation, and the order of love, truth, and elevation in the highest benevolence. I love you. Have a great eclipse season, and I'll talk to you next time.